Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Week 15 Fezzik Focus podcast. I'm your host, Munaf Manji, here to recap everything we saw in the NFL. Of course, here with the man himself, the only two-time winner of the Super Contest at the Hilton/Westgate Hotel. He did it in back-to-back fashion. It's Mr. Steve Fezzik. Fez, what's going on, my man? How are you doing?
Billion-dollar valuation companies and teams, and they just make these ridiculous decisions. Atlanta's running out the clock, and they throw the ball on 3rd and 6 when literally they could have run another 40 seconds off. Makes no sense to me. Don't get it.
And they were doing an absolutely fantastic job of running the football as well with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier there. But yeah, I scratched my head as well. Now, an opportunity for Desmond Ridder to lead his team against his former team to see if they can pull off the upset victory here, Fez. But let's start here with an update on the NFL win totals contest as we're hoping you're inching closer and closer to taking down the grand prize. Where are we standing after week 15?
Looks good. Projection 23. By the way, and what is wrong with these NFL punters like aiming for the 2 yard line because they want their punting average to be good? Aim for the 6 yard line, not the 2 yard line. So Atlanta kicks it out of the end zone. They're doing everything humanly possible to try to blow this game. I actually need Atlanta under 9.5 wins. So they've got week 17, they're at Washington. I'm going to need a loss from Atlanta in that game or any game, but that's the only likely one. The Raiders throw a 3 yard pass, burn 30 seconds right off the bat. It's just mind-boggling. The swing game is the Colts. I got the Colts under 8.5 wins. They're 6-8 with 3 easy games on their schedule. So I'm really going to need that. I got Baltimore under 11. That's probably going to push, and a couple others that haven't been decided yet, but likely, it's like a red state or a blue state. They're
Yeah.
unlikely to flip. Whereas the Indy and the Indy is really the key one that could go either way.
Are you adding Jonathan Taylor to your Christmas list this year for dropping the football before he enters the end zone
It's
there?
just coaching. The coach. I don't care. You're in the pros. You tell your guy, look, you're going to run to the middle of the end zone, and you're going to take that football and touch it to somebody, to one of your teammates or to a ref. And then if you got to do your celebration, you do your celebration. And in college, even more so, you hand the ball to the ref in the middle of the end zone, and you sprint to the sideline. You'll never get a penalty if you do what I say. I don't understand. I know the pros might revolt because they have to have their rowing competition, whatever, after the touchdown. The bat phone's going off. But whenever I see that, I always say just bad coaching.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I was watching someone, I forgot where it was, but they said if any of my players, or it should be not a rule, but something instituted by teams that if that happens, you are getting immediately cut off of the team. But that was a huge momentum swing in favor of the Denver Broncos. Just an absolute blunder there. It's funny because we talked about Leon Lett, or not Leon Lett, last week when he also had that little blunder before he crossed the end zone there. Way back when for the Buffalo Bills. All right, Fez, let's get into phony finals for week 15. Where are you taking us for your first phony final?
Amazingly, that was Leon Letts when
Yeah, right.
BB knocked the ball out of his hand. The let it be.
Yeah,
Let,
we
let,
talked about it last week.
Yeah, Let had two incidences. The Thanksgiving game, the missed field goal where he wanted to recover the ball because he didn't know the rule,
Yeah.
and the pick six or fumble six, where I think it was a fumble six where he allowed the ball because he carried like a loaf of bread, but he didn't just drop it on the 2 yard line like some of these players did.
All right, let's get into phony finals for week 15. Fez, where are you taking us for your first phony final?
Well, with games just ending now, I'm just getting to it. But if I take a look, the Jets Jacksonville, I don't care who won the game. That came down to the final play, so I didn't
Mm-hmm.
make any adjustment. Houston beat Miami by 8. The stats said much closer game, 4-1 on turnovers.
Yeah.
No adjustment for that game. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was just the turnovers there by three interceptions that he threw in that game, which led to short fields and Texans capitalizing off of those interceptions that he did throw. And then the final pick that he did throw was a game sealer for the Houston Texans, and also for them to clinching the AFC South division thanks to the Indianapolis Colts losing to the Denver Broncos.
Kansas City somehow wins by 14 despite playing equally. So certainly not upgrading Kansas City. By the way, I think a seven. Normally I'd say more, but like 6.5 to 7 point downgrade if Mahomes can't go, and he's unlikely to go, I believe.
Yeah. I think the spread right now is indicating that he is not going to go. I think I saw this number open up in favor of the Houston Texans by the number of 2.5. Currently over on DraftKings, it is still sitting at 2.5 in favor of the Texans. So it seems like more than likely that Patrick Mahomes does not suit up on Saturday. They are in the midst of playing 3 games in 11 days, are both the Texans and the Chiefs.
Yes, Buffalo, Detroit. I'm going to look to although the differential was only 6, minor miracle. Detroit got that close. Buffalo absolutely dominated that game. So big uptick for Buffalo, huge downtick for Detroit because of the defensive injuries that
Yeah.
continue to mount. Is it possible, Munaf? Detroit is no longer the best team in the NFL, and they're the third best team in their own division.
I think so. They also lost David Montgomery, one of their running backs as well. They're He's getting a second opinion on the knee there, but him and Jameer Gibbs have been absolutely fantastic. You know, they call themselves Sonic and Knuckles there in Detroit, but he has a meniscus injury. It seems like more than likely he will be missing the rest of the season and the playoffs. It's typically, I think what I read was a 2-month recovery period. So I don't think he'll be back even if the Detroit Lions do make the playoffs there. So just again, another injury on their defensive line there as well. McNeil goes down for them as well. So just bad luck right now for the Detroit Lions there, Fez.
No doubt about it. Indianapolis Colts, no bad luck, just stupidity, but all right, some bad luck. Outgained Denver 310 to 193 and
Mm-hmm.
lose by 18. So that's a phony final.
All right. Anything else for phony finals?
And we are going to look at no, I think that pretty much wraps it up. I will say, you know, it sure seems like if you just bet against these teams that don't want to win, you're
Mm-hmm.
doing just fine, including tonight with the Raiders and the Bears, right? That
Yeah.
well, the Bears want to win, but they're no good. But this Raider team, my goodness, they are a tough watch, no doubt about it.
Tank for Shadur is a sign that I did see in the stands there. So sitting at 2-11 right now, looks like they're on their way to going 2-12, trying to secure one of the top picks to get a quarterback in this upcoming draft here. Speaking of your power ratings, you mentioned the downgrade that we have to give to the Lions. Number one, the way that they did lose the game against the Bills, but how impressive the Bills also did look in that game, Fez. But we talked about the injuries there as well. Now I'm pretty confident that you have the Buffalo Bills as a clear cut number one in your power ratings.
I do. I've been high on Baltimore and on Philly all year long. So Baltimore 2, Philly 3. It's interesting how with Buffalo and Baltimore 1 and 2 in my power ratings, maybe I should consider betting the AFC, but the problem is Baltimore's no good in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, and maybe that changes now that they have Derrick Henry in the backfield there, where they didn't run the football last year like they should have against the Kansas City Chiefs there, and maybe that may be the difference maker this season for them, but we shall see. But yeah, still a little skeptical until they do get over the hump of getting past the Kansas City Chiefs there. You mentioned also obviously Patrick Mahomes. We do think that he is going to be out this week, as the line right now is indicating that. You said you have about a 6.5 to 7 point downgrade from Patrick Mahomes to Carson Wentz.
Yeah, that's a healthy Carson. That's a healthy Mahomes. So obviously, if he plays, he's not healthy, so it wouldn't be that big of a difference. But I think they're dealing a split line. I think Houston would go up to like a 3.75 favorite when Mahomes is out, and if Mahomes is in, then Kansas City would be a small favorite.
All right. I know like you mentioned this last week when we talked about power rating moves, but at this juncture of the season, these teams are who they are. But anybody maybe in the middle pack that maybe was an average team that you downgraded or upgraded as far as movers. I know we talked a lot about the Texans. They still kind of feel quote unquote fraudulent, but the defense looked really good last week against the Miami Dolphins. I'm still skeptical as a Texans fan here, Fez, but any power rating moves as far as any average teams or any moves overall?
Tampa Bay is surging. So Tampa Bay is up to my number 7 team in the NFL, and San Fran is free falling. Now that they're a dead team, I've got them as my number 16 team in the NFL.
Yeah, now they have to travel across the country to Miami for week 16 as they take on the Dolphins. Dolphins currently sitting as a 1.5 point favorite in that game with a total of 46. Fez, I mean, you mentioned it's these billion-dollar teams slash the league. I wanted to get your thoughts. I'm sure you saw this, that the Commanders and the Saints game where the referee signaled to stop the clock down at the goal line there in favor of the Saints. They were able to punch it in for the touchdown and crushed all teasers that were involving the Commanders. They went down from a 7.5 point favorite. If you put the 6 point teaser down to 1.5, they win the game by 1. We talk a lot about accountability for players, coaches. At what point, or do you think ever, will the referees be held accountable for those type of blunders? Because I know that was the talk of the town because teasers, the Commanders were probably one of the most bet teasers this week.
Yeah, it didn't knock down all the teasers because if you got to it early in the week at
Yeah, that's
-7,
true.
you were okay. And if you played a 7 point teaser, you're okay. Knock down most of them. Accountability. Well, wait, well, Donahue made like dozens and dozens of phone calls
It's
to
true.
what's his name? Scott. What's that dude's name? He's still always
Oh,
in the NBA finals.
Scott Foster.
And Scott Foster still has all these like trends where like if he has certain players that he is in the game that those guys have horrendous against the spread records. But I gotta say, what do you need to do to like not be getting like the big playoff assignments? I mean, you would think 100 phone calls and texts to Donahue would probably be enough, right? I mean, just being best friends with like the pariah of the league, that probably should be sufficient, right?
I would think so. And I think there was a lot of chatter when David Stern, or at least for the NBA, when he was the commissioner, that he would put some of these referees into the games to make sure they got those marquee matchups or where the case might have been there. I actually had that book, Personal Foul, that talks about Tim Donaghy and everything in detail. It's a pretty good read. I think I've read it twice now, but definitely a good read to have. Um, yeah. Anything else for week 15, Fez? Not a lot going on, but anything that's kind of caught your eye?
I think this is the time of year. I got to say, frankly, I've had a bad year, and
Yeah.
bad years you wind up making bad decisions. So, like tonight, I like both favorites. I didn't give it out to my clients, and of course, both favorites came in handsomely. So sometimes, like when you're running bad and you start getting cautious being afraid, there's a lesson there that it can cost you even more money. So I'm a little disgusted, about that. But I will say I just think that I've been saying this for years. The efficiency of the marketplace has gotten more and more difficult, such that with these betting exchanges and -102 is available on all these games, like look no further than this Atlanta game. Talk about an efficient market where it slowly leaks up from -4.5 up to -6, right?
Yep.
And I see it closes -6.5. I know it took some strangeness, but then it winds up closing a 6.5 point, 6.3 favorite, and Atlanta wins by exactly 6.
Yeah, I think this was earlier in the week. Actually, on Friday, because I did remember giving out the Falcons -4 on VSiN when I was on the show there. Though, again, when you get to these numbers early, like it did today for the Falcons, it does in fact get to the window there. So, hopefully, we do turn around here, Fez, before the season ends, and then we carry that momentum into the calendar year of 2025. All right, before we get some Vegas talk here, want to remind everybody to get over to pregame.com. And right now, if you use that promo code FOCUS20, that's FOCUS, the numbers 2 and 0, you get 20% off of anything for listeners of this Fezzik Focus pod only, including Fezzik's rest of the football discounted subscriptions. Available now for $349, but it's only $279 when you use this coupon Focus20. You get every NFL and a college football best bet from Fez through the Super Bowl. It's good for 7 days from the release of this podcast. Again, go over to their pregame.com. Make sure you use that promo code Focus20. And of course, also still time to get into the free college football bowl bash bonanza contest at pregame.com. It's sides and totals only. 20 pick minimum, 50 pick maximum. Net profit wins most net units. First place wins $500 cash and 500 pregame bulk dollars as well. And second place wins $300 in cash and $300 in pregame bulk dollars. Third place gets 250 pregame bulk dollars, and fourth to 10th get $100 pregame bulk dollars. So top 10 places will receive a prize. Just go over to pregame.com, click on the contest tab to find the Bowl Bash contest. The action kicks off Saturday. It's free to enter, so join today. All right, Fez. In the last week, we talked about the rodeo in Vegas. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Anything in Vegas? I mean, look, I know it's Christmas time in Vegas. You have all these fun things going on, whether it's skating rinks and things like that. I was listening to another podcast about things going around or happening around Vegas during Christmas time. But I know you have a son. It's Christmas time. You have some free time. Where are you taking him around the city here to celebrate, or at least celebrate the holidays?
Well, the conservatory at the Bellagio is the go-to spot. I mean, that's free and it's beautiful, so that's a great thing to do, with family. Vegas has gotten better with like these drive-through light shows, like the M has one now. And I know that there are in other spots as well. The Ethel M Chocolate Factory has a tremendous walkthrough where you take your young kids, have some hot chocolate, get some goodies. So those are all good. I'm going to make the case for, let's say you're in LA, all right, and your family is somewhere else and you just can't get home for the holidays or you've got to work and the like. A quick trip to Vegas for like 3 days. It's not a bad idea because Vegas in Southern California, I think you can escape the holidays. If you're not really into, like, you don't have kids
Yeah.
and you don't really want to be a part and you're not really like super into the whole Christmas time. I remember one time my brother and I would always go to Philadelphia. We'd see family year after year. That's where my older sister was and her kids. They got a little bit older and we decided to skip out one year. And we just spent like 5 days in Vegas at the MGM Grand. And it was kind of uplifting in many ways to not, we're not overly religious people and like overly holiday people, and just to like spend that week doing a little gambling, seeing a few shows. It was fun, and it was
Yeah.
back then. It was better though. Know why? Because there was no one there, and you could get such great deals on everything. And I think the days of the great deals in Vegas are over with, though.
Oh man. So would you say this is right now? I don't say a great time to come out because it always is. Kind of a slower time because you just mentioned the rodeo was in town. That was, I think it's over now, but from now until New Year's, maybe it's a little bit slow in Vegas. So probably a good time to get out there, as it is any time there, as Fez mentioned. Obviously, I mentioned that bowl season is happening right now. Does it get busy for bowl season at Sportsbook, or is it typically when we get to the NCAA tournament that it really riles up?
More the playoffs in the NFL. The bowls, not nearly, having the interest, and especially with all the opt-outs and everything else and the
Yeah.
uncertainty. We'll see if what might change everything is the college football playoffs, right? So
Yeah.
the fact that those playoff games are coming, that might make a difference in terms of the popularity. I know we'll have crossover, we'll have NFL with the college football playoffs, so that should be a rowdy crowd. One thing to be aware of in Vegas, it's not Southern California. The weather is cold.
Yeah.
So bundle up if you come out here before the Super Bowl, because if you think you're going to be golfing and walking the strip and enjoying it, it's going to be chilly in the desert, especially at night, but even during the day. So I would say Southern California or Destin, Florida, which it can get chilly in Destin, or go Florida or go Cali. Unless you're a big gambler, I'd avoid Vegas till March Madness.
I think next year, probably for the NBA Cup, would be a good time to come out because I was reading it was really cheap to get in, at least far as tickets go for the NBA Cup. So if you're a NBA junkie like myself, maybe make that a trip happening over in Vegas through this weekend. All
Been
right.
lots of
Yeah.
unders in the NBA Cup. What do you think about the finals?
I love the under as well. Thunder have been the best defensive team throughout the season. They've kept that very consistent as well. We saw what they did against the Rockets. They just have a very smothering defense. And I believe all games thus far that have been played in Vegas, again, very small sample, but again, 5-0 to the under are those semifinals and the NBA Cup final game from last year that did end up going under as well. So we'll continue on the under train for the Thunder and the Bucks on Tuesday night in Vegas. Current number I do see is at 216.5 over on DraftKings. All right, Fez, that's going to do it here, my friend. Nice and simple. NFL Week 15 was a lot of fun. We'll be back next week, of course, for NFL Week 16. But anything else you would like to mention to our wonderful listeners before we head our separate ways?
Just it's been a lot of fun. We're going to do this for 2 more weeks, so we'll do it on the
Yep.
23rd and the 30th. So it's been fun. We'll take it through the end of the year with the Fezzik's focus, and then we might look to do it maybe once a month, or we'll put our heads together and see. But thanks to all the listeners who have been along for the journey here.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely been a lot of fun. My first season doing this, being part of pregame. It's been definitely a lot of fun, but we still have a couple more weeks here for the NFL season. All right, we'll be back next week for NFL Week 16, so look out for us then. Till then, good luck with your bets, and we'll talk to you guys down the road.